Hey guys, what is up? Big Red Reviews here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be talking about Thunderbolts, the long-anticipated film from Marvel. It's been a little bit, aka 2 months since the past MCU film, and it's good to be back in the swing of things. Of course, we are 1 year away, actually from today, May 2nd, from Avengers Doomsday, guys. 1 year away, and this movie is keeping the ball rolling with Marvel. We're not going to get into spoilers. We will later in the video. I'll let you know. You know how these things work. Guys, Thunderbolts really took me by surprise. This is one of the films that when they first announced Thunderbolts, everyone was like, why? You know, why do we care about these people? Why is their whole movie based off of them? And I was one of those people, sadly. Obviously, I was going to go see it, but when they announced this film, it was kind of peak, like the peak of mid for the MCU. This is when, like, you know, Thor 4 and all that and Ant-Man 3 were coming out, so I was like, you know, we really need to get together. And now that we've had Guardians, Deadpool, and Wolverine, and all these other good movies coming out, you know, I gave it hope. Obviously, I'm going to go see every Marvel film. But as the trailers came out, as we saw the camera work, as we saw the acting, the writing from what it seemed like, I got really excited for this movie. And then the first reviews started coming out from people who were invited to the screening. Masterpiece, some of the best work Marvel's done in years, one of the top MCU films, the best film since Endgame. And I just really got hyped. I heard the end credit scene was crazy. I really got hyped for this film, but I kind of dampened it as much as I could because I was super hyped. I just love loving Marvel. I love when Marvel gives us good shit. And so I went into this film, and how did I like it? Let's talk about it. I fucking loved it. I really loved it, and this is literally some of the best Marvel writing wise. These characters go from characters that people really didn't care about. Like I guess we cared about Yelena, right, the most, but like Ghost from Ant-Man 2, when like Ant-Man 2 is kind of mid in my opinion. A lot of people kind of forget about that movie. You kind of like her. Now, I do think there are some problems, obviously, when you're juggling this many characters. I think the Ghost is touched on the least, but then again, she did have her own, technically, movie with Ant-Man 2. This is really a Yelena movie at the end of the day. It really is. And she is great, guys. Florence Pugh, like I said, easily, I can see her being the face of Marvel going forward, one of the big Avengers. And just their chemistry, I would argue that the way these guys are brought together and their chemistry almost rivals the initial Avengers. Like you can kind of buy that these guys are actually all on a team. Like, obviously, the OG Avengers, like, they were fighting a bit at the beginning as well. But the way these guys are all forced together by trauma, by their depression, by, like, the way their life has gone. And they really touch on this. This isn't a spoiler, it was in the trailer, but we see Elena really dealing with just she's and of course with her it's different than like us, because us it's just like work and go home and we're not killing anyone. But obviously it's a Marvel film, so all she does is, you know, does these jobs for Valentina and that's it. Then she sits at home and drinks and she just waits for the next phone call and she's in a loop. She's not living, right? And all these characters kind of feel this way, right? Red Guardian's stuck at home. Ghost has just been doing all these jobs. John Walker lost his wife and kid because he got so depressed after losing the Captain America mantle. This all is shown through Bob, obviously. Bob, aka Sentry. The whole movie is about how he just doesn't feel wanted. Like, he doesn't care. Like, he literally says, just leave me here. You guys go. Like, no, like, I just will make things worse. And we learn more about him, and it just really hits home with people who are really going through something. Let's talk about everything that I really think this movie excels at, which is basically everything, guys. The score is great. As you know, Everything Everywhere All at Once is maybe my favorite film of all time, or second favorite. I'm kind of debating where I put it right now. And the people who did that score did the score for this movie, and it's really good. The camera work is great. We get some really nice camera work. Like, there were a lot of fight scenes that weren't cutting as much, and I just really appreciate that. Especially when all of them meet up for the first time. There's a Yelena hallway fight early on that's a one take, and there's a really nice one take having to do with Sentry later on, which was really nice. And I could just actually tell what's going on. Obviously, some movies, it just cut, right? And I'm glad that Marvel's really starting to just get people who are just the best of their craft. The acting, I really love the acting. Obviously, like I said, Florence Pugh stands out in this movie. She is fantastic. She makes you relate to her and all these characters. David Harbour's character, Red Guardian, you could tell, obviously, he's the type of person who is like the comedic person of the group, but you can tell he holds some real pain, and we got to see some of this in this movie. Bob is a great example of someone who is just has been told all his life he's not meant well, and how he gets manipulated by people like Valentina, and he finally found this found family. And I'll get into that in the spoiler section, because there's a certain moment that really did it for me. Taskmaster. Spoiler alert, I have to say this part, guys, and you guys probably already knew this. Spoiler. Alright. She dies, and literally she has one line and she dies. We all knew this. She wasn't in the promotional material much. They kept releasing trailers where it was just them 5 instead of 6, and we kind of figured. And I don't really blame them for doing this. Yes, Taskmaster's a cool person in the comics, but obviously they kind of butcher the character in the movies, and as we know as well, not a lot of people liked it, so I guess this is them just saying, all right, fuck it, kill her off. And it kind of does mean something, but... And we don't see Bucky as much as I thought we were going to. We obviously see him in the final act, but I thought this was going to be Yelena and Bucky's movie. So it's cool to get a movie about Yelena, and then we get to see Bucky struggling with his own stuff as well. This film did the most important job to me, which means we care for these characters. Obviously, these were some of the first names announced to be in Doomsday, and everyone was like, why? And I think this movie perfectly gives us an answer as to I would like to see more of them, and now we know why they're in Doomsday. The ending is great. It's not just some CGI battle or a battle versus a bad guy. The way this movie tackles mental health, and that's really the whole ending of the movie, right? Is them talking about mental health, and I obviously have to get into it in spoilers, but yeah, I mean, everything, I really can't think of anything bad about this movie. I kind of wish they fleshed Ghost out a little more in this film, and I wish we saw a little bit more Bucky, but that's really it. Other than that, I mean, this film was peak Marvel. I mean, the writing, the camera work, I was actually engaged. Like, I was really interested in where we were going, and it sets up perfect stuff for the future. I mean, the end credit scene, guys, believe the hype. It's one of the best end credit scenes we've had, first off, in years, second off, period. The amount of info we learn in this end credit scene is crazy, and I will talk about it. So skip towards the end of the video if you want to hear me talk about it. But guys, I'm going to go ahead and get in the spoiler section. So I'm going to give this movie, I just want to let you guys know, a 9 out of 10. I could see a 9.5 out of 10. Go watch this film. This is what Marvel should be all the time. That you can tell people really cared about this product, and I'm really hyped to see what Marvel does next, because now they're actually starting to build the hype to Endgame. We're seeing some really good movies. We've had Guardians 3, we've had Shang-Chi, you know, but recently we've had Guardians 3, we've had Deadpool, Captain America I think was a good movie. We talked about that in the review. I think it was overly hated, and then this movie, and I could see people putting this in the top 10 of MCU, honestly. And obviously it's not like I guess it's not as interesting as like Civil War or Infinity War, obviously, but these people, like, their connection really works well on screen, and the story is really good, and I can't wait to see more of them. So let's go ahead and get into the spoiler section, guys. This movie starts off with Yelena basically just depressed. We see her doing these jobs that in other movies would just be a big thing, right? She's doing a heist to get some info, and she's killing people. She has to stay alive, but she's so used to this. She's literally just talking about how, oh, I have to dodge this and shoot this person. She blows a building up, and she's just depressed, and she tells Valentina, you know, I want done. I'll do one more job for you, but I'm done. Basically, so her, Taskmaster, U.S. Agent, and Ghost show up to this facility where she's, Valentina told Yelena to kill Ghost, but then when she gets there, she finds out that Ghost is actually after Taskmaster. Taskmaster is actually after U.S. Agent, and U.S. Agent's actually after, like, Ghost or Yelena. So they quickly realize that they've been set up. Taskmaster does get shot by Ghost here, and like I said, I don't really care. I don't really care for this character even in the comics. I mean, I know he's a big character, but obviously I feel like they butchered it in the movies. No one really cared. The few Taskmaster fans that were out there were sad, and I guess Marvel was just like, all right. And I guess they did it the best way they could because, you know, someone had to die. Boom. So then they meet Bob, and as you know, Bob turns out to be Sentry. Sentry's whole thing is he's literally one of the most powerful beings, like, on Earth. But now he has this void where the void can take over and literally turn people into literal dust. And they said they actually used pictures of Hiroshima. If you don't know, when Hiroshima happened, people's shadow, it got so hot and all that, and the radiation, that their shadows were imprinted on the ground from when they got incinerated because it was so bright and so instantaneous. So that's really what he does, and it's another, you know, it's an allegory for Bob's depression. This whole movie deals with depression and how you deal with it. And very early on, Yelena tells Bob, you know, because Bob's like, what do you do with all this darkness in you? And she says, stuff it down. Just stuff it down and forget about it. And you can tell she's kind of bullshitting that. And we find out at the end of the movie she was bullshitting that. Because you're not supposed to shut it down. You're supposed to let it out and embrace it with friends who care about you. And the way the Thunderbolts come together, all having done bad stuff in the past, right? Like, Ghost was a villain in Ant-Man 2. You know, Bucky was the Winter Soldier. Yelena used to just kill people for sport. Red Guardian feels like he failed as a father. And, you know, all these different people have all this guilt and stuff, and they feel like they're just killing to kill. So seeing them come together was really nice. The fight scenes were incredible. Seeing them fight in that like room right before the incinerator came on was great. Seeing their banter and then this movie's just, I feel like this movie was really good with cutting the humor when it needed to be cut. Obviously, you know, in Marvel films, especially like kind of more recent Marvel films, they don't really know when to turn the comedy off, right? And this movie, I feel like, does a good job. Like, we see Red Guardian, you know, making jokes, and then all of a sudden it cuts like a 2-minute serious scene. And they do this perfectly in the beginning of the film when they find Bob, with Bob accidentally touching Yelena, and we see a memory from Yelena's past where we find out that she had someone kill this little girl as her first task for a Black Widow. And we find out that Bob is able to tap into that, and his void basically makes them relive these really sad moments in their life. And we see John Walker, as you know, after the TV show, he lost the mantle of Captain America. He falls into a depression. We see him and his wife arguing, and seeing him so in this depression, he's not even watching his kid. And so seeing that and seeing how Bob pulls that out of them and how they can in turn help Bob in the end is really great. Valentina is a really layered character. We've seen a lot of her recently. We saw her in Black Widow, obviously, at the end. We were introduced to her, and I think it was Falcon Winter Soldier. And you know, then we saw her in Black Panther 2 as we found out that she was Ross's wife. And now we see her here, and we kind of figured, we always thought the asterisk was meant to be like her Avengers, and we are right in the end of the day, but we basically find out that she was part of the Sentry program, and they basically buried it years ago, and she was going to kill it with them, but since he escaped with them, now she's trying to make like the perfect hero. We see her slick his hair blonde, and it's kind of almost like Homelander and Stillwell from The Boys, where like she's like making Homelander exactly how he needs to look in the public and all that. And I really like that. She's a nasty character, but she's played great by, you know, obviously Dreyfus. But the way this film ends is really something special to me. I was really engrossed by it. I was really enchanted by it almost. I was really into it because, like I said, this is not just, okay, all 5 of us fight the villain. They try that in the middle of the movie and just get their fucking shit slammed. This was the other one take I was talking about. It's like a 1-minute one take where they all go at Sentry and he just effortlessly just demolishes them. And I really love how he's still fighting. Like, Bob's still fighting because Valentina says, you know, kill them. And he's like, I have no reason to kill them, so why would I kill them? Just let them go. He doesn't want to hurt them. And then basically, you know, Valentina kills him, and he turns into the Void, and he starts just causing mayhem on the streets. And this is where, obviously, the Thunderbolts come into action, and they basically have to stop him. And I love, like I said, it's not just them, like, punching and fighting. Yelena walks into the Void willingly, right? And another question, where the fuck's Spider-Man? Where's Kingpin? Kingpin's the mayor right now. Where's Kingpin during all this? Where's Daredevil? Obviously, they can't be in the movie, but like, it's just so funny to think about, like, what's Kingpin thinking of when all this shit goes down in New York? Like, what the fuck? But we see Elena go in, and we see, after she had a really heart-to-heart with her dad, which I really like that scene, where he just cuts the bullshit, and he's like, you know, when I look at you, I don't see your mistakes, and so she goes in and basically and goes through her fears and stuff. She finally finds Bob sitting in there, and we find out that he was in a abusive household where his dad would hit his mom. And she's basically like, you know, I can share this pain with you. I can help you get out of this. And it's basically, it crescends into where she almost dies, but the other Thunderbolts jump in there and save her from this. And we see Bob fighting the Void, fighting his darkness. And it's just such a good, like this layered fight. Like, I wish Marvel had more of these. We see him punching the fuck out of his darkness because he thinks, okay, I'll just beat the shit out of it and try to destroy it. And that's how I'm going to get rid of this. But then we see the Void start slowly overtaking his body. And then you realize, like, you know, you don't get rid of depression by destroying it. You kind of find the root cause of it and try to share it and get rid of it, like, and talk about it. So then we see, like, probably one of the best scenes in the film, where all the Thunderbolts are just putting their hand on his back and like, you know, being with him and taking him off of this. And he realizes that he now has, like, you know, a found family. And this was great. And the movie genuinely abruptly ends like this. It literally ends here, and they walk out to Valentina, and she announces that they're the new Avengers. And then Yelena says to Valentina, we own you, because as they know, you know, they can't, if she does anything to them, they can just out her and get her arrested. So as we know, the asterisk is now revealed to be the new Avengers, which was kind of figured. We thought it was either going to be the Dark Avengers or the new Avengers, but we now know they are the Avengers. And that leads into the end credit scene, which I really want to talk about. There's two. The first one is just is Alexei at a convenience store, and some girl's trying to buy cereal, and she sees, you know, the Wheaties box of him on there, and he's like trying to get her to buy. He's like, look, I'm on the Wheaties box. So it's a funny one. The second one is the one you want to stay for. This is the one everyone's been hyping up, and guys, it lives up to the hype. This is one of the best end credit scenes we've had, period, let alone in the past 6 years. This is the first time in a while that we've gotten an end credit scene that really seems to have set up something that we're going to see moving forward. And I think Shang-Chi did that too, but like I said, that was back when they were doing Kang, so I feel like that's why we haven't seen that, because I think they were supposed to have his rings connect to Kang's, like, world, but since obviously they're not doing Kang anymore, they kind of had to drop that. So again, like I always say in every video, I can't blame Marvel 100%. They had COVID, and they had the whole Jonathan Majors situation go down. But this, I'm so glad, because going into this film, I think I said in one of my recent videos, we're a month out from Endgame, or we're a year out from Doomsday, right? We really have had any build up to Doomsday. Regular viewers who aren't into the comics or anything don't even really know who Doom is. Like, all we know is the multiverse is happening. So the fact that now we're finally getting some teases and stuff. So basically, the end credit scene takes place 14 months after Thunderbolts, which would put us in the middle of 2028, which would make sense because now like people were saying Doomsday is going to take place in 2028, which makes sense because this movie does take place a little right after Captain America, because they mentioned how the president turned into Red Hulk, and that was in April of 2027, so this takes place, if I had to guess, in the summer of 2027, so 14 months later, probably August-ish of 2028. And we see them, there's a new Avengers logo that looks sick as hell, and I will say this, I did find this out on Twitter, this scene was not directed by this film's director. This was shot on the Doomsday set, and if I had to guess, the way they insinuated it, it was directed by the Russo brothers. And this is not unheard of. If you remember, the Ant-Man end credit scene was literally directed by the Russos, and it was a scene from Civil War. So I really love that they did this, and I really like their looks in this like, the 14 months later time skip. And I think these are going to be how they look in Doomsday, because as we know, all of them will be in Doomsday. So we see them chilling in Avengers HQ, and we quickly get a lot of information leading up to the big reveal at the end of this end credit scene. We find out that, obviously some people haven't taken kindly to them being the Avengers. We find out that Sam Wilson has made the Avengers, as we know at the end of Brave New World, because Ross and everyone told him to make the new Avengers. We find out that he's not really keen of this new Avengers team, and we still have yet to find out why. We find out he's filing a trademark for the Avengers name and logo, and we find out that him and Bucky did speak and that it wasn't nice. So it's going to be interesting in Doomsday to figure out what exactly is going on, because, he is making the Avengers, and the way they explain it is, and they're like, why does he decide it? And Bucky says, well, he has the shield, right? And so it's like the government's making it, but now this, like, their Avengers team is made by the government, like, Yelena and all that. So it's going to be really interesting to see them kind of clash. And obviously I think they will come together at the end, but we'll see. And I don't think Sam's really happy about John Walker and all that, and obviously he doesn't know Sentry or anything. So that's going to be a big thing going into Doomsday, is seeing how these teams react, because we know everyone's in it. The second piece of information we find out is when they say, like, there's a ship or they talk about how there's something going on in space and they're not being told about it. So obviously we know something's happening in space. I think it has to do with Doomsday and all that. All they say is, we're losing space, something's going on in space. So I think that obviously has to do with the multiverse and Doomsday and all that. That caught my attention as well. And then let's get into the big reveal, guys. And if the credits do spoil this. When they're playing the songs, I saw that the theme of these characters by Michael Giacchino was in there, and I was like, I haven't heard that. And then it clicked me when I saw it. But we basically hear that there is a ship coming out of a multiversal slipstream, and the ship, the minute you see it, if you watch Fantastic Four trailer, it's them, and the ship turns and you see the Fantastic Four logo, and you see Yelena looking in disbelief, and it ends. And I think this will be a direct scene in Doomsday, if not maybe a little altered, but this is huge. And what's crazy is Fantastic Four is not even out yet, right? So we still don't know what's causing them to come over here. There's a couple theories. One, Galactus destroyed their whole world, which everyone's kind of thinking it's true. I think they're showing us this because we all think that, and I think they're just trying to throw us off. I think there's multiple possibilities. One, the Galactus. 2, the one I believe, I think we will see RDJ Doom in Fantastic Four. I think the world will be destroyed and they'll escape and RDJ's Doom escapes, and I think that's what will be the whole space thing, and I think the Fantastic Four pop in right then as well. Or a lot of people were saying a really interesting theory was they'll send Franklin in the ship, like Superman almost, and send him there and he'll explain it. But I don't really see that because Franklin's not even born yet. We don't know if there'll be a time skip where Franklin's little in the movie. I doubt it. I think he'll be a baby, or maybe she'll still be pregnant. So I doubt that. But obviously this is huge. And I'm glad they're not, like, my friend was like, well, they kind of spoiled Fantastic Four. They really didn't. Because the minute we saw that this Fantastic Four was in an alternate universe in the 60s, like, aesthetic, we knew that they, in order for them to be continuing in our world, they would have to be in our universe. So we knew something would happen to where they would come over. But this got me so hyped, guys. Obviously, Fantastic Four is, like, 2 months away. So it's going to be really interesting to see what that movie sets up. And then the next movie's Doomsday. And, guys, go watch Thunderbolts. It is incredible. It is emotional. It is an entertaining time. I already want to go see it again. Again, 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10. Go watch it. Let me know what you guys think down below. As always, it's been Joey. Bye-bye.